like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
All right, so welcome back. This week we're going to deep dive into all those Week 18 NFL predictions.
Yeah.
You know, so you can hopefully become a prediction guru yourself. You've given us a ton of expert opinions from CBS sports writers.
Right.
And then also from the Sportsline projection model, which, just a reminder, simulates games thousands of times to get those super detailed predictions.
Okay.
We're talking about, potential upsets, playoff scenarios, all those things that could twist and turn. And we'll even get into some insights from AI.
All right.
So buckle up.
Yeah, it is really interesting to see all the different approaches you have here.
Right.
You know, you've got the human element, like those gut feelings from analysts who've been watching these teams all season.
Yeah.
And then you've got that data-driven approach from Sportsline, which is all about those probabilities and trends.
Right.
So I'm interested to see where they agree.
Yeah.
And maybe even more importantly, where they disagree.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's just jump right into it with those Saturday games.
Okay.
First up, we have the Browns at Ravens.
Okay.
Baltimore's favored by a massive 17.5 points.
Wow.
What's the expert consensus on this one?
Well, most experts are going with the Ravens win, which makes sense.
Yeah.
They're fighting for a playoff spot, and 17.5 points is a pretty big spread to cover.
Right.
But here's where it gets interesting. Mike Tierney, who's a Sportsline expert and is known for his accuracy, especially with the Ravens' predictions, is actually taking a deeper dive into this game. He hasn't locked in a pick yet.
Oh, okay. That's a little bit of a red flag to me.
Yeah.
If Tierney's hesitant, maybe we shouldn't be so quick to assume a Ravens blowout.
Right.
Is there anything in particular making him pause?
It could be a few things.
Okay.
Maybe he's looking at the Browns' recent performance. Or maybe he's factoring in some potential motivation for Cleveland to play spoiler.
Right.
It's hard to know, but whatever it is, I'm definitely going to be checking out his analysis before I make any bets on this one.
Good call. All right. The other Saturday game.
Okay.
Bengals at Steelers. Now, this one has playoff implications for the Bengals.
Yeah.
So you would think that it might be like a low-scoring, nail-biter type game.
You would think so.
Yeah.
But R.J. White, another Sportsline expert, and he's particularly good with those Steelers predictions, is actually leaning towards the over on this game.
Wow. Okay.
He thinks it could be a pretty high-scoring affair.
I'm intrigued. What's the logic there?
Well, just think about it.
Okay.
The Bengals really need this win to secure their playoff spot.
Right.
So they're going to be going all out on offense.
It makes sense.
And the Steelers, even though they're out of playoff contention, always seem to play hard at home.
Right.
Especially against their rival.
Yeah, especially against a division rival.
Yeah.
Okay, so even though the stakes are different for each team, both teams still might be motivated to put up points.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's move on to those jam-packed Sunday 1 p.m. games.
Okay.
And we'll start with Panthers at Falcons.
Cool.
Falcons are favored by 8.5 points.
All right.
What do our sources say about this matchup?
Well, the Sportsline projection model really likes the Falcons here.
Okay.
And it's highlighting their strong record as favorites this season, especially at home. They've been covering spreads pretty consistently.
So if we're going just purely based off the data, Falcons seem like a safe bet.
Right.
But let's see if any of the human experts have a different take.
Okay.
Next up, we've got potentially a spicy matchup.
Okay.
Commanders at Cowboys.
Right.
This one has upset written all over it.
Yeah, it does. In fact, Tyler Sullivan, who is a CBS sports writer, is actually predicting the Commanders to pull off the upset on the road.
Really? The Cowboys are still in the playoff hunt, aren't they?
They are.
Why is he so down on Dallas? He thinks that Week 17 loss to the Eagles' backups might have shaken their confidence a little bit.
Okay.
And the Commanders, on the other hand, are desperate for a win to keep their playoff hopes alive.
Yeah, classic trap game scenario,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
You've got one team looking ahead to the playoffs, and they're potentially overlooking their opponent that's playing with nothing to lose.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Okay, let's move on to Bears at Packers.
All right.
Packers are heavily favored by 9.5 points.
Ooh, wow.
And the Sportsline projection model is all over Green Bay in this one.
Yeah, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Packers have a lot to play for. They could still improve their seeding.
Right.
But there is a big question mark here.
Okay.
Will they rest their starters?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question with a lot of these late-season games.
It is.
So if the Packers decide to play it safe,
yeah,
this could be a much closer game than that spread indicates.
For sure.
Okay, next up, Texans at Titans.
Now, this one caught my eye because Pete Prisco, who is a senior columnist at CBS Sports, actually thinks that the Titans might upset the Texans.
Wow.
Even though they're out of playoff contention.
It's a bold prediction.
Yeah.
But it does make you think about their motivations, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what are the Titans really playing for at this point?
Yeah, I mean...
Well, they could be playing for pride.
Yeah.
They could be playing to improve their draft position.
Right.
Or maybe they just want to spoil the Texans' playoff hopes. You never know.
Right. So even though the Texans are technically the better team on paper, the Titans might have more to play for in this specific game.
Right.
Good reminder to always consider those hidden motivations.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's keep this train rolling.
Okay.
Jaguars at Colts.
All right. Yeah.
What's the buzz around this one?
Well, this one is interesting because it's featured in a 5-team parlay on Sportsline. Now, a parlay, just so you know, is where you combine multiple bets into one. So that means the payout is much higher if you win.
Right.
But all your bets have to be correct.
Right.
So the fact that Sportsline is including this game in a parlay means that they see some serious upset potential here.
Right.
Why do they like the Jaguars in this matchup?
Yeah.
Well, the Colts have been pretty inconsistent this season.
Okay.
And they might be playing with a backup quarterback.
Right.
And the Jaguars, while they haven't had the best record, have shown flashes of brilliance this season.
Right.
They've pulled out some surprises.
Okay, I'm starting to see why this one is raising some eyebrows.
Yeah.
All right, up next.
Okay.
Bills at Patriots. Now, this is usually a pretty heated rivalry.
It is.
But the Sportsline projection model is advising caution when it comes to picking the Bills, even though they're favored and they usually beat the Patriots.
Yeah, well, here's where understanding playoff scenarios is key. The Bills have already locked up their playoff spot.
Right.
So they don't really have anything to gain from winning this game.
Right.
In fact, they might even rest some key players to avoid injuries.
No, it makes sense.
Before the postseason.
So while the Patriots are still fighting for a playoff spot, the Bills might be more focused on staying healthy.
Right.
Yeah, makes you wonder how much they'll actually be pushing for a win in this one.
Yeah.
All right, Giants at Eagles. What's the word on the street for this NFC East battle?
Well, the Vegas odds seem to imply that the Eagles are going to rest their starters.
Makes sense.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, they've already clinched their playoff spot.
Right.
And they don't want to risk any injuries before the playoffs.
Right.
But R.J. White,
okay,
our Sportsline expert,
is
pointing out that the Eagles' offensive line is so dominant that they still might be able to win even with those backups playing.
So even if the Eagles aren't at full strength, their offensive line could be the X factor in this game.
It very well could be.
Okay. The Giants' defense might have a tough time regardless of who's under center for Philly.
It seems like it, yeah.
All right, last game in this 1 p.m. slot.
Okay.
Saints at Buccaneers.
Right.
The Bucs are favored by a whopping 13.5 points.
Wow.
And AI Pickbot, which is Sportsline's machine learning system, is giving Tampa Bay an A-grade pick to cover that spread.
Okay.
That's a huge spread.
It is.
And an A-grade pick, I mean, that means the AI is really confident in the Buccaneers' chances.
Right.
What makes them so sure?
Well, it could be a few things.
Okay.
Maybe it's factoring in the Saints' offensive struggles this season. Or maybe it's recognizing that the Buccaneers are playing for a higher playoff seed.
Okay.
Remember, these AI systems can process a ton of data that we humans might not even consider.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out.
Let's take a quick breather before we dive into those late afternoon games.
Right.
You've already mentioned a few potential upsets.
Yeah.
But trust me, there's even more surprises in store.
And we haven't even touched on the Sunday night game yet.
That's right.
Which has got some pretty interesting storylines of its own.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're back.
All right.
And we're ready to tackle those late afternoon games.
Okay.
Starting with what could be the biggest shocker of the week, Chiefs at Broncos.
Yeah.
Eric Cohen from that Early Edge show on YouTube is actually predicting the Broncos to upset the Chiefs and sneak into the playoffs.
Wow, that's a bold prediction.
It is.
No doubt about it. But let's unpack his reasoning here.
Okay.
Cohen's theory is that the Chiefs, who have already clinched their playoff spot, might rest their starters to avoid those injuries.
Right.
And if Patrick Mahomes and some of those key guys are sitting on the sidelines, it creates a huge opportunity for the Broncos.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be risky for the Chiefs?
Yeah.
I mean, they could potentially drop in those playoff seedings if they lose.
Yeah, it's definitely a gamble, but it's a calculated one.
Okay.
I mean, the Chiefs might just decide that risk of injury to their star players outweighs the potential benefit of securing a higher seed.
Right.
They might figure, you know what, it's better to be healthy for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Even if it means, potentially facing a tougher opponent in the first round.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating strategic dilemma.
It is.
It'll be interesting to see how Coach Andy Reid handles this one.
Yeah.
It's all about weighing those short-term risks against those long-term goals.
Right.
Okay, next up we have Chargers at Raiders.
Right.
This one is a bit different because both teams are locked into their fates. Playoffs for the Chargers, out for the Raiders.
So the question is, what does a meaningless game actually mean?
Yeah.
Are these teams going to play their starters? Or are they going to be experimenting with different lineups?
Right.
Are they just going to try to avoid injuries?
Yeah.
It's really tough to predict.
Yeah.
Even for the sports line projection model.
Right.
Because there's no real tangible motivation for either team.
Yeah, I feel like in these types of games, sometimes you see those unexpected players just step up and try to make a name for themselves.
Right.
Maybe like a backup quarterback trying to prove he deserves a starting spot next season.
Right.
Or a young receiver who's trying to showcase his skills.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, these quote-unquote meaningless games can actually be super exciting.
Right.
Because you never know who's going to rise to the occasion.
Right.
It's a chance for players to really show their coaches what they can do when that pressure's off.
Okay, let's move on to Seahawks at Rams.
Okay.
Now, this one's interesting because the Rams are already in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But they might start Jimmy Garoppolo instead of Matthew Stafford.
Okay.
Now, the Sportsline projection model is still heavily favoring the Rams to cover, but I'm curious.
Yeah.
Is Garoppolo a factor in that prediction?
He definitely could be. Remember, Garoppolo has a history of exceeding expectations when he's called upon.
Right.
He's led teams to playoff wins before.
Yeah.
And he's shown that he can handle pressure.
Yeah, I remember back in 2019, he led the 49ers all the way to the Super Bowl.
Right.
So, yeah, he's definitely not your typical backup quarterback.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, he brings that experience and leadership to the table.
Right.
And that could be enough to give the Rams an edge, even if they're not at full strength.
Okay.
So don't count Jimmy G out.
Yeah. Okay. Next up is a game with huge playoff implications, Dolphins at Jets.
Oh, yeah.
This one's got everyone on edge, especially with John Breach from CBS Sports calling for a Jets upset to knock the Dolphins out of the playoffs.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
And Breach is citing a couple of key factors.
Okay.
Weather and Tua Tagovailoa's health. If the weather's bad, it could favor the Jets, who have a strong running game and a solid defense.
Okay.
So they could potentially control the clock and keep the Dolphins' offense off the field.
Right. And then there's the Tua factor.
Yeah.
He's been in and out of concussion protocol this season, and that's a huge concern.
Huge concern.
Yeah.
If Tua is not 100%,
yeah,
it could really limit the Dolphins' offensive firepower.
Yeah. For sure.
This is a game with a lot of uncertainty, and those variables could definitely swing things in the Jets' favor.
Okay, last game in this late afternoon slot.
Okay.
49ers at Cardinals.
All right.
Both teams are out of playoff contention, but Pete Prisco still thinks that the Cardinals will win this one.
Really?
Yeah, he's pointing to the 49ers quarterback situation as a major factor.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
With Brock Purdy being injured.
Right.
The 49ers are relying on those backup quarterbacks now.
Yeah.
And that's never ideal.
Right.
Especially against a team that's still hungry for a win like the Cardinals.
So even though this game doesn't have playoff implications, it's not necessarily meaningless.
Right.
The Cardinals might see this as a chance to end the season on a high note and build some momentum for next year.
Right.
And those 49ers backups will be the proof they belong in the NFL.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, every game tells a story.
Right.
Even week 18.
Yeah.
there's always something to play for, even if it's just pride or a chance to showcase your skills.
Okay, let's shift gears and talk about the elephant in the room, AI predictions.
Yeah.
We mentioned earlier that AI PickBot is giving the Buccaneers that A-grade pick to cover that massive 13.5-point spread against the Saints.
Right.
And I'm still trying to wrap my head around that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating how AI is being used more and more in these sports analyses now.
Right.
Remember, these systems can process these huge amounts of data.
Yeah.
Team stats, player performance, injuries, weather conditions, even historical trends.
Right. So it's not just about picking a winner. It's about analyzing all these different variables.
Right.
And calculating that probability of a specific outcome, like covering a spread.
Exactly.
Okay.
And while those AI predictions aren't always perfect, they can offer those valuable insights and help us see things from a different perspective.
Right.
They force us to question our assumptions
Right.
and consider factors that we might have overlooked.
Okay, let's go back to that potential upset that's got everyone buzzing. Eric Cohen's prediction that the Broncos will beat the Chiefs.
All right.
What are the key factors that could make this upset actually happen?
Well, the biggest factor, as we talked about before, is whether or not the Chiefs decide to rest those starters.
Right.
I mean, if Mahomes and other key players are sitting out, it significantly levels the playing field.
But even if the Chiefs do rest their starters, the Broncos still have to execute, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, they can't just assume a win.
No, they'll need to play their best game of the season.
Right.
They'll need Russell Wilson to step up and make those big plays.
Right.
And they'll need their defense to really contain whoever the Chiefs put on the field.
It's a tall order.
It is.
But stranger things have happened in the NFL, right?
They have.
And let's not forget, the Broncos are playing at home.
Right.
Which could give them a slight edge.
Yeah, home field advantage can definitely be a factor, especially in a rivalry game like this.
Right.
The Broncos fans are going to be fired up.
Yeah.
And that energy can sometimes translate onto the field.
Okay, let's wrap up this deep dive into those late afternoon games with a final thought.
Okay.
Don't underestimate the power of motivation.
Oh, so true.
Yeah.
In these late season games, the teams that are still fighting for something, whether it's a playoff spot or a higher seed or even just pride, they often find a way to overachieve. And those teams that are already locked into their fates, they might not be playing with that same level of intensity.
It's definitely something to consider when you're making your predictions.
All right, let's get ready for that Sunday night showdown.
Right.
Vikings at Lions.
This one has all the makings of a high-scoring thriller.
And we've got an expert with a very surprising prediction for this one.
Oh, really?
Stay tuned. Okay, so we are back for the grand finale of our Week 18 NFL predictions deep dive.
Let's do it.
We got one game left, and it's a big one.
Okay.
Vikings at Lions on Sunday Night Football.
All right, this is the kind of matchup that gets fans fired up.
Yeah.
Two high-powered offenses going head-to-head, potential playoff implications on the line.
Yeah.
The Lions are currently favored by 2.5 points.
So you've got Justin Jefferson on one side, Jared Goff on the other.
Yeah.
You would think this is going to be a guaranteed shootout.
I think so, yeah.
Points galore.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
R.J. White, our Sportsline expert, who, by the way, has been spot on with Vikings predictions this season, is actually leaning towards the under on the point total.
The under.
Yeah, the under.
In a game with two of the most explosive offenses in the league.
I know, right?
That's a bold call.
It is a bold call.
What's his reasoning there?
Yeah, what's the logic?
Well, it seems kind of counterintuitive.
Right.
I know.
Right.
But, maybe he's looking at some potential defensive adjustments.
Okay.
Or maybe he's seeing something in the matchups that suggests these offenses won't be as productive as we think.
Okay. Could it be weather related?
Oh, that's a good point.
I know Detroit can get pretty chilly this time of year.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely a possibility. Yeah. I mean, weather can have a huge impact on scoring.
Yeah.
Especially in these outdoor games.
Right.
If it's cold and windy, it's going to be harder for those quarterbacks to throw accurately.
Right. Yeah.
And for receivers to make catches.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or maybe White's looking at some statistical trends that we're not aware of.
Right.
Yeah. It's hard to know.
Whatever his reasoning, I'm definitely checking out his full analysis on Sportsline.
Yeah.
I trust his judgment when it comes to the Vikings.
It's a great reminder that sometimes the obvious pick isn't always the best pick.
Right.
There might be those hidden factors that we're not seeing at first glance.
Right.
And that's why it's so valuable to have these experts like R.J. White who can dig a little deeper and uncover those hidden trends.
Yeah, okay, let's zoom out for a second. Think about everything that we've covered in this deep dive. I mean, we talked about those potential upsets, playoff scenarios, the impact of backup quarterbacks, AI predictions, even the importance of motivation.
It's been a whirlwind.
It's been a whirlwind of information.
It has.
So I think the biggest takeaway for our listeners is this. Don't just blindly follow the experts or the algorithms. Use their insights as a starting point. But do your own research, consider all those factors that we've talked about, and ultimately, trust your gut.
I love that. It's about being an informed consumer of information, not just a passive recipient. So we've given you the tools. Now it's your turn to use them to make your own Week 18 predictions.
And remember, even the experts get it wrong sometimes.
So they do.
That's part of what makes the NFL so unpredictable and exciting.
Absolutely.
So don't be afraid to go against the grain. Like some bold predictions of your own.
What's the fun in playing it safe?
Exactly. Now, one final thought for you to ponder as you head into the weekend.
Okay.
Go back and look at those expert records and specializations. Who do you trust the most? Whose analysis really resonates with you? Use that to inform your own predictions and see if you can outsmart the pros.
And don't forget to check out those full articles and analyses on CBS Sports and Sportsline. They've got a ton of information there that can help you navigate this final week of the regular season.
Okay, that's it for this week's Deep Dive.
All right.
Thanks for joining us on this wild ride through the Week 18 NFL predictions.
It has been a wild ride.
It has been a wild ride.
For sure.
We hope you've learned a few things, gained some valuable insights, and most importantly, that you're ready to dominate those fantasy leagues. And friendly wagers.
Good luck, everybody.
Good luck and enjoy the games.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.